welcome to another edition of Time for a Slow Burn. My name is Jeff Roberts and I'll be your host for this series of programs. This program is a monthly event and we will discuss topics of interest to the southeastern corner of Wisconsin, the state, and of course nationally. Topics can be just about anything, usually something that starts off as a discussion, a debate, or just a plain old-fashioned yelling match between friends and neighbors. Surprising what can get a person all riled up. Sadly, it's usually something about local or national politics, a television program, or something we've witnessed firsthand. And sometimes, it's just a rumor. For our first topic, I have to admit this is near and dear to me, and it should be for you too. The topic is Social Security. When Social Security was first started in 1935 by the Social Security Act, Social Security was meant to be a lifeline, but it was the new idea that would help seniors once they retired from the working world get by without help. Well, the primary beneficiary would anyway. Then in 1956, disability benefits were added. By 1965, Medicare came along to help supplement Social Security. In 1984, all members of Congress are required to pay into Social Security and their staffs. They weren't before, but they are now. This was an update to eligibility. Prior to 1984, Congress was exempt from paying into Social Security. Social Security was outside of the annual budget due to the extreme cost of paying benefits. The 2019 budget shortfall for Social Security was $440 billion and is projected to be $1.6 trillion 10 years from now. So as you can imagine, I worry about Social Security being around for a while, say the next 20 years. When I look at my Social Security payments each month, I am sickened. And why, you might ask? It's free money. Well, it isn't free money. It was a tax paid by me and my employers over the course of my 47 years in the workforce. And my Social Security check has taxes taken out of it every month, just like when I was working. Now, I make between $22,000 and $25,000 per year with Social Security. I began taking my benefit when I turned 65. My wife did the same. Add all the other things that we have going and savings and so forth, and we're doing fine. But at $22,000 per year, that equates to $10.58 per hour for the standard 40-hour work week, and so on for my much higher amount. The monthly check goes up, but then so does the taxes. So when I hear some raving jackass in Washington, D.C. telling me that my 47 years in the workforce is not worth someone flipping hamburgers should get, that really pisses me off. The push for $15 per hour to work at Mickey D's is not reasonable. That is a starter job. It's not a permanent job. Not by any standard. When seniors on a fixed income can barely afford to go out to eat once or twice a month, and some meatbag who works in Washington, D.C., making six figures per year, wants to throw $15 an hour at kids in high school, or the ones that just graduated, they have lost their common sense and a heck of a lot more. If that does happen, the price of your kid's meal will shoot to $10, and your double hamburger with cheese will skyrocket to $15 or more. Let's see who's happy then. Seniors who have spent decades of their working lives deserve much better than to barely above the poverty level that they get now through Social Security. Social Security funds were put into the general fund because it was thought there would be an endless supply of money. But Congress and the arrogant John Maynard Keynes disciples, who called themselves economists, didn't factor in the aging rate of the workforce, especially the baby boomers. The lack of population growth after the baby boomers as well. The shortfalls each year are catastrophic, and the interest rates on the loans to pay Social Security benefits are growing at a substantial rate. In reality, they're almost out of control. Yet Congress is playing right along, knowing full well the American taxpayer can't afford higher taxes on their wages, or to pay higher prices that come along with a $15 per hour minimum wage. In case you're interested, a $15 per hour job times 40 hours per week equates to $600 per week, and times that by 52 weeks per year, and that difference will be $31,200 per year. Let's see, $22,000, $25,000 for Social Security. Now you've got $31,200 for someone making $15 an hour. Congress will have a field day jacking up the taxes on a $15 per hour wage. If you don't believe me, just watch and see. It's coming. Not long ago, I witnessed several young people arguing over politics. Not just any politics, but the differences between capitalism and socialism and which system they heard was better, or they thought was better, or whatever the case might have been. It sounded to me that both groups needed to attend a lecture on their respective views. Both sides seemed to be a little bit short on facts. Yes, they were way off. It sounded more like a bunch of bathroom lawyers trying a case before the court of urinals than a real discussion about what is capitalism and what is socialism. We all think that we know what capitalism is, and we probably have a fairly good idea. But what about socialism? About now, you should be asking just what is socialism and what is a socialist state, because we keep hearing that over and over again. Well, according to the World Population Review, an online reporting source, that question is very difficult to answer. But it suffices to say they give it one heck of a try. Now, I have to paraphrase here just a bit to avoid the legal issues of using specific reports that are published as online sources, and they have their legal copyright and so forth. So bear with me. A socialist country are countries that have aligned themselves with what we call socialism. Okay, sounds simple enough, right? However, there is no written criteria or official process for being considered a socialist state. So, about any country can call themselves socialist. Okay, that complicates things quite a bit. According to the report, all that is required is that a country identifies itself as socialist. That includes any nation that can claim to be socialist or have their constitution have it so state, and that their economy and way of government are based on socialism. That country doesn't even have to follow the academic or political systems associated with socialism. They just have to call themselves socialist, and in the eyes of the country, they're socialist. If the country based on internal and external politics on the Marxist-Lenin model, as was followed by the now defunct Soviet Union, remember those guys? The country can be erroneously thought to be a communist state. So accurately defining what a socialist state is or should be can be very difficult. The term has come to have many meanings and interpretations, each one based on one person's belief or more. In very broad terms, socialism is a political and economic theory based on the state owning everything, and everyone works for the benefit of the state, not themselves. The advocates of the entire community would control production, distribution, exchange of goods and services within the community for the community. No one person can benefit personally. But the reality of today's world, socialism is not controlled by the community, it's controlled by the government. And every socialist government on planet Earth is corrupt, is a dictatorship, or is a bunch of criminals, or all of the above at the same time. Socialist dreamers have a theory they subscribe to, and that is the easiest way to define socialism is that it seeks to redistribute wealth of a nation, closing the gap between rich and poor. In reality, not even close. But they can dream, can't they? Well, that's the idea anyway. Does that sound familiar? Let's see. How many millions do you need anyway? Remember those words? Those words were spoken by none other than King Barry, aka Barack Obama, on the rally during the presidential campaign. I think we should ask him that question now. He's been on the speaking circuit for over 4 years and has made millions. Where is the income distribution on his fortune? So, Your Highness, just how many millions do you need anyway? Has King Barry or Michelle coughed up anything to help those in need, or are they too busy on the speaking and book signing tours to bother with those who need help? Remember, wealth distribution has been around for centuries, and it has never worked, not once, and it never will. Here's why I say that. Many countries around the world have laid claim to be socialist. Most states actually do follow the Marxist-Leninist principles, and they have failed economies. And those countries include Laos, Cuba, Vietnam. China is slowly moving back to the bad economy list as well, and it won't take long. These countries claim to be communist, not dictatorships, not socialist. Huge difference. A little known factoid for you. The number of countries claiming to be communist or socialist has dropped dramatically in recent years, and for good reason. They've attempted to distance themselves from failed governments that nearly or actually did destroy their economies, their unique cultures, and their political systems, then in turn nearly wiping out their economic way of life. Wealth distribution only puts money into the government coffers. The poor stay poor, and the rich move away to avoid paying taxes. They move to the Cayman Islands, or to Switzerland, or any other country with low tax rates for multimillionaire and billionaires. Why do they do this, you would ask? Easy, because they can, and the government is powerless to stop them. Some reasons, the same reasons corporations move manufacturing and their headquarters offshore. Saves time and money, and you don't have to deal with corrupt governments and their minions. Now, that isn't all that happens behind the scenes. Add countries to the list like Afghanistan, Albania, Angola, Belarus, Benin, Bulgaria, Cambodia, Congo, Czechoslovakia, Ethiopia, the old East Germany is another great example, Hungary, North Korea, Mongolia, Mozambique, Poland, Romania, Somalia, Russia, the current Russia, Ukraine, North Vietnam, and South Yemen. And let's not forget good old Yugoslavia, which has been broken into multiple countries that have constantly been at war with each other since the dictator Josip Broz death. For those who remember their history, Broz was known as Tito. He united Yugoslavia and kept it united until well after World War II, until his death in 1980. All have suffered disastrous economies for prolonged periods and political upheavals that have created many dictatorships, usually one right after another. Some of them are still evolving. Several have died out. So much for socialism being good for the community. History has shown us that is laughable. As you can see, it is very difficult to define and determine who is really a socialist country and who is one just in name only. Most scholars will state emphatically they know of a handful of countries that are indeed socialist, but they're using a biased institutional definition that changes from university to university and one professor to another. Now, here's my definition of socialism. Socialism is one step away from a dictatorship. If the state does not own it, it will. If it doesn't approve it to be built, the state will not allow it to exist. Anything that is done for the state and only for the state to profit from it. The state is the community. Yeah, about right now, you'd be asking, what the hell is the benefit to the community if you don't have any free will or can't create anything new? And that's the question. Now, with the current global worldview of economics, you can exchange socialism with communism just about at will or at any time. Once again, here are my thoughts. The main difference between socialism and communism is, in socialism, the state owns and controls everything, including what you do and say. In communism, it's the party who owns everything and controls what you do and say. Both systems are one step out of a dictatorship. Look, you have no free will and you must comply with the government or the party's requirements or face the consequences, which are usually quite severe. Just ask the Chinese and the Russians who are in Siberia. These types of governments only accept blind obedience. No independent thought or actions will be tolerated. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is not true socialism. That is a true statement, but if you look at all the economies across the globe right now, none of these socialist countries follow the true tenets of socialism, because there are none, not one. And who runs those countries? Nothing but petty dictators, criminals, and thugs. Not a very community-oriented, are they? They rape and pillage at will and get away with it because they control the military, they control the police, and all the government agencies. Now, I know what you're thinking. This isn't real socialism, right? We hear that in the media all the time. Oh, yes, it is. There is no real socialism. Socialism is defined by the thugs and criminals who call themselves and the shots in the government. There is a long and bloody history of communism and socialism failures throughout history, all because madmen took over. Everyone stood by and did nothing to stop them. Welcome back. We have all heard a lot of crap about white privilege lately. What is white privilege? What is black privilege? What is Latino privilege? And what is Asian privilege? Who decides anyone has privilege? The answer is they don't. It doesn't exist except in the minds of those bigots who scream the loudest when they don't get their way. You know, maybe we've been asking the wrong question. To me, this is what I consider privilege. Hold on now, you'll get this. All right, privilege is wearing a pair of $200 designer sneakers when you never held down a job in your life. The damn things were bought with illegal drug money or welfare dollars, and you were a coward and you shot someone to get them. Shades of South Chicago suburbs. Anyone remember that? Privilege is wearing a $300 pair of Beats headphones around the hood while living on public assistance and subsidized housing. Privilege is having a smartphone with a plan you don't have to pay for. Your state welfare benefits cover the cost. Privilege is when you live in a subsidized housing, pay no water bill, no gas bill, can't be evicted, you pay no property taxes, and you do not pay for building repairs when you and your hood tear the place up just for kicks. Privilege is when you do not look for work, but pay for food on your table, but you buy it with an EBT card and cash the state provides through public assistance. Privilege is having as many children as you can just to get more public assistance so you can get them into daycare that you don't pay for. The state does through public assistance as well, while you're supposed to be looking for work. Privilege is where you and several others protest, then riot in the streets of your hometown or elsewhere. You can destroy local shops owned by your neighbors, burn down buildings, and scream to defund the police, all because you want your voice heard and want to appear to stand for something. Anything will do. As long as it involves violence and destruction for others, your voice must be heard above everybody else's. That is what I call privilege. And there are more pieces to that puzzle, but you get the idea. Being a bigot and blaming others for your shortfalls and failures is not privilege. It's just being a bigot and a failure. Let's hear what Ami Horowitz has to say about this topic. I'm sure you'll understand.
We need to recognize our privilege and practice humility.
The concept of white privilege has become an important bulwark of the Democratic Party's ideology and was discussed in nearly every Democratic debate. I'm Ami Horowitz and I'm in Kansas City at a white privilege conference. What is white privilege, you may ask? I don't know. Let's find out. This white privilege conference had over 1,000 attendees, many of them educators. Do you think that it's fair to say all white people in this country have white privilege?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Do all white people have white privilege?
Yes.
I feel myself having it every day.
The country is founded on white supremacy and that persists today.
Hyper aware, feel super guilty all the time.
But that white people in this country generally are prejudiced?
I'd go further and say we're all racist.
Is it fair to say that all white people are racist throughout the country?
Yes, absolutely.
Not just the South?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes it's okay to be like, oh, all white people do this, or white people are X, and especially in a negative light.
Is it wrong to judge people collectively?
Yes.
Is it wrong to judge people collectively?
It's wrong to judge everyone collectively, you know.
Duh.
Yeah, absolutely. No one's a monolith.
That's wrong to judge people collectively, right?
To judge people? Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously. Tell me about some of the white privileges that you have encountered over the past, let's say today.
You're talking about me as a white man today?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I don't know if I could give you examples.
Not really today, but maybe. Sorry, I'm not good at thinking.
Like today, what white privilege have you come across?
I sat in my room until 12:30 this morning.
So what are some of the white privilege things you came across, let's say today?
Today?
Yeah.
I mean, just being in the world.
Is it fair to say that on a daily basis, black people around this country face obstacles because of white privilege?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
White supremacy as an institution punishes black folk in a way.
Daily.
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely. Every day.
How black people are consumed with this day to day, and they deal with this issue day to day.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, I think that's just so obvious that if you're not admitting that, you're blinding yourself to reality.
Are you a professor?
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense now.
In fact, when we go to the airport, I walk with her. My wife's black, so I'll have my hand on her so that people see that I'm with her. I extend my white privilege over to her.
Now I'm here in Harlem in front of the Jackie Robinson Housing Projects to ask residents what they think of white privilege. Do you know what the concept of white privilege is?
The concept of white privileges.
Yeah. Ever hear that?
I've heard of it, but I don't think about it.
When you wake up in the morning, do you immediately think about and are consumed with the idea of white privilege?
No.
You don't think about that all day long, every day? No?
No, I'm not consumed with it at all.
I teach students I'm not consumed with anything except for runny noses and pencils.
My mom didn't raise me to view color as the object of anything.
Do you wake up every day thinking, I am not going to succeed today because of white privilege?
No, obviously not. You see, I'm my own businessman.
Would you even think it's damaging to tell your kids and teach your kids, if you're a black kid, that you're not going to succeed in life because you have
Of course.
privilege?
Of course. It makes them think, okay, well, I'm going to be nothing. If I want to be a doctor, I can't even do that anymore. It gives them no hope.
Color ain't stopped nothing. I mean, it's a myth.
It's America. If you're willing to put forth an effort, you'll do what you got to do.
I got kids in here, man, that's lawyers, doctors. They grew up out of this building.
I know it sounds cliche, but I can accomplish anything.
If you let something stop you, then that's you. Me, I ain't let nothing stop me.
My daughter is graduating at the top of her class.
I'll say to them, how many black people do you know?
Do you think that sometimes white people just kind of shut up a little bit?
Oh, yeah, for sure. That white people should definitely shut the f*** up.
We white Americans need to do a better job of listening when African Americans talk.
Welcome back. Early this summer, the NFL announced it was considering playing the Black National Anthem at games. What Black National Anthem? There is no Black National Anthem. There's no White National Anthem. There's no Latino National Anthem or Asian National Anthem. There's only one national anthem, and it belongs to the United States. If the U.S. national anthem offends you, then you're a part of the problem in America today. It's time for you to immigrate to a country of your choosing that will allow you to declare an anthem of your very own. If you don't want to be an American, then it's time for you to really leave. For some, that may seem harsh, but think about it. The United States has citizens from every country in the world, every region, and every continent on Earth. If we play a black national anthem, then we'd have to play a national anthem for every race and every creed on Earth. With that in mind, will we stop being Americans? Would we certainly have no national pride? Our American culture would cease to exist. We're Americans. It's time to stop bending over backwards to prevent from hurting someone else's feelings because we identify ourselves as Americans. At all national and statewide events, we fly the American flag, not the Irish, the German, Italian, English, Scottish, Welsh, Dutch, Russian, Ukraine, etc., etc. You get the idea. There's no other flags that fly but the American flag. There's only one, and it has 13 stripes and 50 stars. That means to all who see it, it means something, and they will hear our national anthem. There's been an outpouring of hate in the media over the past 6 years or so for the former President Donald Trump. Is that hate misplaced? Or is it the media trying to prop itself back up after the horrendous ratings slump they experienced over the past several years? Millions have turned off the media outlets and gone to streaming and the garbage on TikTok and other streaming crap. Here's why I question the media's hate for Trump. And believe me, I'm no fan of Trump. He did a lot of really stupid things while he was in office as president, but let's see what happened. So let's set the Wayback Machine to several decades ago. It was back in 1996. Then President William Jefferson Clinton, can't keep my pants on, visited Mount Rushmore during his re-election campaign. ABC News called it a place where American ingenuity and civility came together and formed an amazing American accomplishment. Very nice praise during a presidential campaign. Okay, we get it. Then in 2008, when Barack Obama campaigned there, remember King Barry? CNN called Mount Rushmore a majestic sight and every president should visit. Really? 2016, the king of socialism in America, none other than Bernie Sanders, visited. He stated to the media he was humbled by the presence of 4 of the greatest American presidents. CNN described the moment as awe-inspiring. Wow. During the 2020 campaign, when Donald Trump visited Mount Rushmore, CNN called it a celebration of white supremacy, and Trump would stand before 2 former slave owners on stolen land from Native Americans. Wow, what a changeover. Over-the-air broadcast media outlets are intensely agenda-driven, and money is the top motivating factor. Next is the prevailing political opinion of the rich donors. Kill any commercials for companies that the media doesn't like, or left-wing and socialist multi-billionaires. If they hate it, it goes. Characters like George Soros and Mike Bloomberg and many others. After all that crap we've witnessed over the past 20 years in politics, if you don't think the over-the-air broadcast media has an agenda, and it's agenda-driven, you've been living under a rock for the past 2.5 decades. Stay tuned. Here's a bit of food for thought. We wonder why America is losing its manufacturing edge in the global stage. All we need to do is look at our own little sphere of influence to see why. And here's why I say that. This story is true, but I have retired, so I don't work anymore. But I'm just saying, you get the idea. I start my day with my alarm clock, and it goes off at 5:30. My clock was made in Japan. I shave with my electric razor. It was made in Hong Kong. My toothpaste is made in Mexico, along with the toothbrush. My coffee is almost finished by the time I finish my shower. Both shower head and coffee pot were manufactured in China, and the coffee came from Central America. I put on my dress shirt, next, and my slacks, and these were made in Sri Lanka and Singapore, respectively. Then my shoes, they were made in Mexico. Next, I fix my breakfast on the kitchen stove, made in India. And I get the milk and bread from the refrigerator, put the bread in the toaster. Both refrigerator and toaster were manufactured in China. After breakfast, I check my smartphone, made in Mexico. Check the sports scores on my TV. It was made in Taiwan. Then I head to the garage, open the garage door, and the opener was made in Malaysia. I get into my domestic SUV. Parts were manufactured in Mexico and Canada. The SUV was assembled in Canada. Then I take my 1-hour commute to work and log on to my computer, which has components made in Malaysia, Hong Kong, Japan, and China, and it was assembled in China. Well, when work is done, I drive home and stop for gas, produced from 20% crude oil from Saudi Arabia or any of the other Arab countries. Get home and take off my work clothes and put on some bum-around clothes and relax for the evening. They were made in Vietnam and China. Then I open a bottle of wine from Germany or France, depending upon the mood I'm in. Then I make my dinner and relax to watch TV for an hour or 2 before bed. My bed was made in Brazil. The mattress in Box Springs from Indonesia. I turn on my reading light, which was made in Hong Kong. Pick up my book to read, and it was of course printed in Singapore or the Philippines. After reading for a while, I turn off my light, set my alarm to settle in for the night. Next morning, do it all over again. That used to be my day. And yet we as a nation keep wondering why America has lost its majority of our manufacturing capacity and prowess. Every time a company moves its operations overseas or across the border, either north or south, America loses a little bit more of its livelihood. Doesn't that make you wonder? Doesn't it? Well, that's it for another edition of Time for a Slow Burn. Tune in next time for topics of interest that tend to burn your hide. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.